Today in San Francisco, Samsung announced its latest flagships for 2020. Today we saw the S20, the S20 Plus, and the S20 Ultra, and they also debuted its new folding phone, the Galaxy Z Flip. So in this video, I went hands-on at the event, and I want to give you some of my overall first impressions of the S20 as well as the Z Flip. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications whenever we share a video. So Samsung started the event off with the Z Flip, so let's start the video off with the Z Flip because to me that's one of the more intriguing announcements of the day. And so if you are familiar with the Galaxy Fold, this is not quite like that. Yes, it folds, but it's not something like a tablet form factor that folds into a standard phone size. It's more of a vertical fold out to be a normal phone, and then you fold it down to reduce the size. So in terms of functionality with the Galaxy Z Flip, you have a standard 6.7-inch looking phone that can basically reduce itself to half the form factor. So that's kind of where the appeal might come in with some people on the Galaxy Z Flip. Now, there is some different functionality that you get by using the flex mode, which is basically where your phone is kind of folded in half. And what you can do is you can take a selfie and then maybe view the photo and options, kind of swipe using the bottom half of that screen and look at your photo on the top. Or if you're watching a YouTube video per se and you want to leave a comment at the same time, I think that's more of where the interesting functionality comes from. So you could do that on the bottom half of the display while the top half is continuing playing your YouTube video. But other than that, that seems to be kind of it where, you know, you get a unique perspective with the Z Flip. It's not like the Galaxy Fold where, again, you have a standard phone that expands into a larger tablet. But I do think it's still really cool. The hinge we'll focus on now. When I used the Galaxy Fold, I was really nervous about actually breaking it because of the whole, stigma that came with folding devices at that time. I think Samsung has possibly fix that for good, at least with the Z Flip. It is very sturdy. Whenever I was opening and closing it, I was holding my camera in one hand and the phone in the other, so it was already kind of difficult to do, but I could tell there was resistance with the hinge. It wasn't easily flipping out like old school smartphones or old school flip phones back in the day where you could just flip it and close it super quickly, like the Motorola Razr, before it became a folding screen. One thing I do want to point out with the display, it's not a plastic folding display like we saw with the Galaxy Fold. This is actually foldable glass. I have no idea how Samsung did it, but it is a lot sturdier. Again, it feels like actual glass, and I don't feel like I'm going to be breaking it as easily, or like any kind of scratches that happened on the Fold basically rendered your device useless. Well, here, I didn't get that sense. So the glass seems to be a huge improvement. You're still seeing a bit of a crease, but you kind of get over that as it's fully opened. Obviously, when you have it in flex mode, there's a huge crease, but you don't really notice it as much when you have it fully unfolded as a normal 6.7-inch smartphone. So I'm really excited. It goes on sale February 14th, so this Friday. Hopefully we can pick one up and we can do a larger hands-on and unboxing of that device. So be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that. And then today, Samsung, of course, announced its S lineup flagships for 2020 with the new S20. So you do get the standard S20, the S20 Plus, and the S20 Ultra. The S20 Ultra is absurdly expensive. It's just as expensive as the Galaxy Z Flip, a little over $1,300, which is crazy to think about. I think most people are going to want to focus on the standard S20 and the S20 Plus, which are still also very expensive, starting at $999 and going up to over $1,000 for the S20 Plus. In terms of design, aside from the camera bump and the inclusion of more cameras, the design really just kind of stayed the same. The hole punch for the display is now directly in the center for all three models. With the S10 Plus, it was off to the right corner. I do like it more in the center because you don't have the ability to swipe over and smear your cameras every time you're trying to check notifications or whatever. But The design is pretty much the same. So what I want to focus on with the S20 lineup is that there are three main differences that they did focus on. They included a 120 hertz display, which is really awesome to look at. But one thing I noticed while I was checking the devices out is that you can't use the 120 hertz refresh rate when you're using the QHD resolution. You have to bump it down to 1080p. I'm assuming this is for battery life purposes, but you would think that maybe Samsung would just be like, hey, your battery is going to take a huge hit if you're using both high resolution, the maximum resolution, and the 120 hertz. So I don't know if there's something else more going on there as to why you can't do it. Maybe in developer settings, we can override that. I don't know. But it's kind of bummed me out a little bit. But I guess the display is so good that 1080p versus QHD is kind of hard for most people to notice really the huge difference unless you're looking at it side by side. So if you want that buttery smooth refresh rate, which is going to be great with games that are going to support that here coming out this year, you will have to play in 1080. But that's the main thing that they improved is the display. It looks amazing. And then they beefed up the battery on all three devices. So you have a 4,000, 4,500 and 5,000 going from the S20 all the way up to the Ultra, which is good because this is a very powerful phone. Huge displays. There's a 6.2 inch display on the smaller S20. The S20 Plus is 6.7 and then 6.9 inches for the Ultra. So they're massive displays that are going to consume a lot of power. So it's good that they in fact increase the thickness to accommodate for a bigger battery. Those are the two things that they really focused on. But the main feature that everyone is talking about are the cameras on the S20 lineup. The S20 could be the new camera king. I won't know until we get our hands on our own unit and we can put it up against the iPhone 11 Pro Max and see which one really is better. But from what you can do with the new S20, I'm very impressed. On both the S20 and the S20 Plus, you get a 12 megapixel ultra wide and 12 megapixel wide angle camera. And on the telephoto lens, you get 64 megapixels. On the Ultra, you have 12 megapixel ultra wide, a 108 megapixel wide angle, and a 48 megapixel telephoto lens. Samsung has also included some new features with these cameras like space zoom, which allows up to 30x zoom on the S20 and S20 Plus, and then 10 times lossless zoom on the Ultra, which basically equals up to 100x zoom, which is absolutely nuts. So as you can see in my video, when I'm doing the 100 times zoom, obviously I don't have anything really cool. It's kind of dark here to look at, but you can see from going to ultra wide all the way to the 100x space zoom feature that they offer, there is a lot of ground covered. Now, when you get to 100x or even 30x on the S20 and the 20 Plus, the image is not very good, but it's there if you really need it. So I'm not sure how many people are going to be taking a whole lot of photos and videos at 100 times zoom or 30 times, but it is really cool to be able to point to something from a distance and be able to get a usable photo at 30x and at least kind of make out what it is you're looking at 100x, but being very far away. So that is kind of a cool feature. Another really awesome camera feature is the new single take feature, basically allowing you to get the best photo using AI and all of the different camera modes that your phone is capable of offering, including lenses. So if you have an ultra wide angle and a wide angle lens, it's gonna take those two pictures, it's gonna crop in, it's going to take different pictures within a 10-second time span, and then AI is gonna say, hey, here is the best looking picture, and hopefully you should be able to capture the shot. And finally, one other thing that the new camera offers is 8K video recording, which seems absolutely nuts because there are very few devices out there that can support 8K. Samsung does have a couple of TVs. We might be actually checking them out here in the future. So if you're interested in seeing that, of course, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss that. But you can't even play back 8K on this display because it's only a QHD display. We don't even have 4K smartphones, but that's not the point. There are going to be TVs in the future that will support 8K, and the most useful function right now is taking 8K video and cropping into something like 4K or even 1080 and being able to zoom in a whole lot on your video and not lose image quality. So that's why Samsung is offering that right now. The downside is I'm assuming this is going to take up a ton of storage space on your phones. So if you don't have a high internal storage rate, you're gonna need SD card slots to certainly help you out with that. But you do have the ability to do that. So that's one thing that I really like that Samsung offers, is the ability to expand storage. So I'm really looking forward to testing out the cameras and both the Galaxy Flip and the S20 and S20 Ultra. So be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss those videos. Also, let me know in the comment section down below what you think of these new devices. Is Samsung really taking a leap forward? Is it causing you to maybe think about switching from the iPhone? Of course, please let me know in the comments below. This has been Dan with Mac Rumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you around in the next video.